Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Matrix Weekly Outlook Forex, Cryptocurrency, Indices, and a few commodities series. This will just be me going through the majority of Forex pairs that we have available at the moment, a couple indices, and giving you a look as to what I think would play out within the week. And yeah, I guess classifying them into three categories, or three essential biases. So there'll be a long, neutral, and short. Neutral will be based off something will be classified as neutral if there isn't enough information for me to confidently decide which direction it's going to go. Long, meaning that we could start to see a bullish move or an uptrend begin. And then shorts, exact same thing. We could start to see a bearish move or some more downside to come into play. So we'll get stuck into it straight away because this will be somewhat of a long video. We'll be looking at the DXY, so the US dollar currency. At the moment, so where we are on a weekly time frame, I'm looking at the potential for us to be in a C wave. So this is our A wave down. We're currently in our B wave. We'll get a C wave before we move back up. That's the one possibility I'll go through in this video. On a lower time frame, so moving to a daily, we'll even go to a 4-hourly just to give as to what's happening now. So obviously the horizontal is there. We haven't tagged that horizontal, and we could definitely see that climb to be tagged. However, with the relative strength of how far down this has gone, I don't think that's something that's necessarily likely. So what I'd be looking to see in the next week is maybe a little bit more upside, but I'd like to see this come down and form a nice flat, something like this. What that would then suggest is that we're actually starting the beginning of our C wave. We'll get our reversal, something like this, and then we'll be able to sell this for a long-term hold down to the downside. This will be awesome because obviously on that higher time frame, we are expecting more downside. If you wanted to trade this, I know a lot of traders do like the 15-minute and the hourly. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of them for a few reasons. I like working on higher time frames just because they give me more probability when I do get into my 15-minute setups. But nonetheless, so if you wanted to say you're forecasting that this is the first move down, this is our A wave up, you could look to see or look to purchase some more for the upside. However, upside is limited. And what that would mean is that a reversal back down to go into a B wave will play out. So if you're in longs, there'll only be short terms from this point. That's probably the best forecast I could give right now. And we'll look to see a deeper correction. So from a higher time frame perspective, DXY falls into the neutral category. I'd like to see more correction before doing longs or deciding on what we're going to be purchasing. Okay, so euro on a weekly time frame. Let's just get rid of this. On a weekly time frame, we are in a downtrend. So this is our first move, 1, 2. So this is our W, X, Y. This is a smaller time frame, X. If we were just to go box and box, it is a bit bigger. So because we are in the downtrend, obviously we'll be looking for sell setups. On a 4-hourly time frame, I am calling this a contracting flat. The reasons for that is, let's move to the daily. Okay, this is our first move up. We have a reversal. I believe this is our B wave here. Come back up to complete it. So in total, this is our B wave internal. This and this, and then we have our strong reversal up, strong reversal down. Normally, I would be very hesitant calling this is the contracting flat. However, with the current market conditions and things like that, I would not be surprised if Euro decides to push this down and push it down hard. Now, in regards to trading and actually making money on these moves, I need to see this to be confirmed. If you wanted to trade this on a 15 minutes, you can sell this down as the B wave, catch your C wave up back to the top. But if you wanted to look into a long-term, more probable setup that's going to make sure your win ratio is higher, wait for this to come up. Wait for us to get a reversal here, and we can look to track this in the group, and we could then sell this down over here. Because what if that was to play out, what that would mean is that we have a daily contracting flat pattern. We have our first impulse to the downside. So this would be our W. We could watch to see this come up. So it's our X, and then we'll be catching a Y wave to the downside, which will be more impulsive, have more momentum behind it, and be able to reap you a larger risk to reward. So that's the outlook for, or my outlook for Euro. It would fall into the neutral category, moving on to the sells when we actually get back up to this point over here, because then we can sell that back down. So the yen, okay, let's take a look at the yen. So on a weekly time frame or a daily time frame, I'm looking for this pattern to play out. So I'm looking at this being my A wave, this being a 1, 2, 3 for my B wave, and we're currently in the C wave up before we come back down. The reasons I'm confident in calling this the B wave, just look at the way it's gone. 1, 1, 2, 3, up over here, impulsive down. And the fact that it hasn't corrected any sideways over here before falling really helps me believe that this is our C wave to the downside. And then just as quickly on a 4 hourly time frame, we see that reverse back up. On a lower time frame, this is what we've got. Possibly something like this. Where's the highs over here? Let's see if it actually falls in. So there's always the case for the contracting, but it's got to kind of be reasonable. If I was to do this, it's a very deep core. Like I'm cutting a pattern line and I'm cutting the candles there. So I'm not confident in that. What that would mean is if yen was to drop quickly, A, B, C, more upside. If yen was to sit here, like this, you could look to sell this down. When it gets to this low, move your stops to break even, potentially take profit, because I'm not confident that the higher time frame is ready to go. I'd like this to drop, and then we could look for longs. You get something like this, you look for a long setup over here, you'll be catching another 4-hour impulse to the upside because we don't have any divergence in this move up. So a likelihood for another move up is exactly that, it is likely. So let's wait for this low to break. If it sets up nicely, or we get a quick 1 to 3 correction, we can look to take this up. So that's yen. More upside to come, but in the coming week, maybe 2 weeks, but anywhere from here to here, I don't want to be trading this. I want to put my trend line like this, and I want to see this fall and correct, because we're looking for long-term downside on the yen. This is the pattern. We've come from here. This is our A. This is our 1, 2, 3 for B. This is our C. This is a complete pattern. This is our first impulse. So this will be our W. This will be our X. This will be our Y, X, Z. Yeah, that's how I'm looking at yen. This is how yen will play out. So longs in the short term, coming weeks, maybe to the end of this month, and then we'll be looking for yen to continue fall. Okay, CAD. So CAD was pretty nice. We were looking at this being the daily move, to start of the potential upside. This was an awesome move up. If you catched it, well done. If you didn't, that's all right. On a lower time frame here, so we could look. So this would be our flat. Let's take a look to see what's happening internally. First thing I want to see is this. But we are also getting that. So what could that mean? Okay, we can actually see possibly more downside before we go up. So on an hourly time frame, because this is such a large move to the upside, so this piece here, we could see a deeper correction. You could look to maybe sell CAD if you get the relevant setups. You could look to sell CAD down. This does look like a more likely setup, and then eventually you get something like this. Again, this will more than likely be short term, just because of the impulse and the lack thereof of divergence at the moment between here. So CAD, the bias would be sell setups in the short term to break this low, and then be careful if you do have any open positions once we break this low. You'd be either trailing the your stop loss downwards, because we would likely to see a reversal back to the top to give us that divergence and actually complete this move to the upside. Okay, so that's CAD. You could catch a little sell setup on a 15, but we'll go on up after that. Pound. Okay, where are we sitting here? So we're in a downtrend. These are all impulsive moves to the downside. So this is your contracting, or possibly you're running. On a 4-hour time frame, I'm a bit skeptical as what this is. This could either be your first impulse, you get something like this for more up, or this could be your A wave, come down for a B, get something like this to match what happened here. Then we could see more down. This would be short-term buys, break this top, follow with your stop loss. We will get an immense amount of divergence here. So divergence will go like this. And then we could look to see either a correction, which similar to that, which would indicate this is your first impulse up, and we could see another one, or this is your impulse down, back up. Awesome. Okay. So that's what we're looking at there. So pound neutral, you could look for a 15-minute setup here to come back up. Be careful on the way to the downside, but that would be, when it falls into buy or sell, I'm looking for 4 hours to be ticked, the 4-hour time frames to be ticked, because then that would initiate more of those sells and more of those longs. When they fall into that category, it means that I'm confident that we could then start implementing a strategy for based on sells or based on longs. If I'm not ready for that to fall into that category, then it's going to be neutral. So it's similar with Swiss. I mean, you could look at it on a higher time frame. I believe we're doing this. So this is our flat pattern that we see at the moment. This is our first, let me recorrect this. So this is our first impulse away from the trend line. We're currently in a, what looks to be forming a flat. Get rid of this. So we could see some upside to come back down. And then from here, it'd be longs. So wherever you wanted to get in and however that was to play out, what you'd be expecting from this circled area is up, correction, get in long again, long again, long again. Because what you'd be looking for Swiss to do is to break this top. Yeah? So neutral, but longs coming soon. Aussie. Aussie on a weekly time frame is in a tricky spot. The reason I say tricky is, have we done a correction, or is this our first impulse up? So we'll go to the monthly time frame. I had it drawn out. So this is from the historical data. This is what it looks like from historical data time frame. And the reason I say it's tricky is this piece here. What is this piece doing? Is this our WXY as the first impulse up, and this is our pullback? So we'll set up like this and then move up, or is this just another correction? With this just being an impulsive move to the downside. Both are valid. Right now, we're in a downtrend. The weekly time frame is in a downtrend. So the bias is sells. It doesn't matter what high time frame possibility I'm looking at right now. 1, 2, 3. So this is a 1, 2, 3. Yes, there's divergence. It barely isn't. There is no divergence here on the daily time frame, weekly time frame. Let's keep going down. Okay. So on an hourly, I posted the potential sell setup here. The stop loss was incorrect. So you would have got stopped out if you took that. Impulse, A is our AB, and this is our C. We've got this trend line formed. We're now breaking this trend line. So this is a break of the trend line, a flat pattern, a move away, correction, sell, sell. We'd have to continue selling this down. If Aussie was to continue going down, it would just continue going down as is. So we just make these small impulses and corrections, and you can actually sell that down. And you should continue to sell that down until you get stopped out for one of them, and then it corrects above the trend line. If it was to do that, then you could look for longs. But right now, on a lower time frame, these are 15-minute consolidations and drops, consolidations and drops. Be careful at the moment because we do see, let's see where this is. Yeah, so we do have a little bit of divergence, but I wouldn't be too worried about that. This might really just take off here. It's in a tricky spot, because the 4 hourly has no divergence. This is just one move up, and it is quite impulsive. If you're looking to trade this, be careful. Take sells. This could be the complete correction, but be wary of this being another pullback. Maybe doing something, maybe something like this. I'm not sure. See how that goes. New Zealand, very similar to Aussie. I mean, the way it's playing out. Let's see if I can label what's happening internally. Yeah. Maybe even here. Cool. And this is your pullback. So this is going to form a running flat with an impulsive C up, contracting flats. So this is more sell setups here as well. You're just getting these falls. This might exactly move like that, so you might get drops. On a weekly time frame, where are we? Similar situation to Aussie. Is this the flat? Is this your impulse? WXY? And all of this just being a pullback? Or do we have that? More sells, see how far they go. Because we could definitely see this come back to break this low. We have no divergence on the way down. So no divergence between here and here. So more downside is likely. It just depends on if it's ready to go now, or it would like to do one more up before it goes. But based on the information we currently have present, it's more sell setups. Okay. Euro Oz, 2 options. This, with us just having a pullback here. We could see maybe one more low before this goes up. We have no divergence here. So no divergence in this current move to the upside. That would indicate more longs are valid and like a reasonable, logical thing to be thinking about on a smaller time frames. We could look to sell this maybe a little bit more lower. It's this one's tricky, because what if it wants to do this? No, but I don't like that as a zero. Okay, I think Bucky shared this one, and he showed me this pattern potential. So for Euro Oz, it does look like this is the pattern play out. If you're looking to sell it, you could sell it, but potentially short term. You might get lucky, and this might turn out to be the other option that I listed, and it'll just drop. However, based on the information, it does look like more upside is probable. You got no divergence up until here, no divergence here. So draw a trend line, sell it, wait till it breaks this low, and then just track your break evens. And then if we get a reversal, something like this, then you're more than likely to see more upside. Euro New Zealand, I'm confident we get another C wave down. Let's take a look here. Is this? It doesn't make sense. Sorry guys, I'm trying to figure this out as I'm making the webinar. I like this as our first impulse up. Is this all the correction? And this is boom, boom, more corrections, more upside. Or is this your ABC? 1, 1, 2, 3, come back down before going up. I was setting up an hourly. You could definitely sell this. You haven't broken this low, so more than likely going to see a break of that low. Look for sell setups. Be careful when you break these lows. The reason that like a few of these, the Aussies, the New Zealand, the Euro Aussies, they're at a critical stage where they're making the decision as to what is the higher time frame doing. Is higher time frame going into reversals, or is a higher time frame having completed a correction, and these are the continuation of impulses? I'd like to see this come down. In my eyes, it would make sense. And then you just get, this is your A. So 1, 2, 3, this is your B, this is your C. These are setting up to be sell setups. We have an impulse, we have a correction, we have a following impulse, and they're just correcting more as they drop. Doesn't mean that they're not going to just take off like this. You're just going to have to take the risk, take a sell setup. When it gets to here, potentially move to your break even. I wouldn't say close it. I mean, sometimes you're going to have to make the decision between closing a trade and keeping a trade at break even. These are the type of trades that I'd consider keeping at break even, because if these are complete, let's see if I can match these. Possibly. I'm cutting it a bit short. But yeah, these are the trades that you're going to have to decide whether to hold them at break even and wait to see what plays out next, or to close, because they might turn out to be any one of things. There's multiple options right now. So Euro New Zealand, short-term sells until the market's identified which way. Euro Yen, definitely more sells. So we've got on a daily pattern, I'm looking at this is the 1, 2, 3, and this is the correction 4, more correction 4 on a 4-hourly time frame or a daily. wait for this to give you a flat pattern, and then sell. Keep selling to break the low. Every time you get a correction, sell down. If you wanted to view this one a little bit different, you go like this. This is just a pullback. It's also an option, but it doesn't really change the bias. Cool. Euro pounds, it's a mess. On a weekly time frame, this is complete. So this is your WXY strong reversal setup. Let's say it's doing this. These are your individual moves up. So impulse, your original impulse, 1, 2, 3, comes back down lower. You get this, and now we're in for a larger correction. This is your 1, 2, 3, comes back lower here, and then moves up. Usually I don't like this kind of exaggerated, but as you can see, they don't really care. This pair doesn't really care about divergence. I mean, on a daily time frame, you cleared all divergence throughout with this previous move. So I wouldn't be surprised if this comes to the low, gives you a nice setup like here, and then goes up. Neutral corner. Wait for your setups. Stay on the weekly. Okay. What are we looking at here? So corrections, falls. This looks to be correcting this move down. So the next thing we can expect is another impulse to the downside. Now essentially the correction will remain, is that the impulse is starting now, or is it yet to start? We'll go with the premise that this is our first move here. This is an impulse 1, 2, 3. So this is your A, this is your 1, 2, 3, and we're currently in a C. I don't like the way that it's correcting because it is very like choppy, spiky up and down. We'll drop a horizontal like this. Where are we here? This is the high. Let's move to 15 minutes. You could make the case. This is complete. Back to 1 hour. This is your A, 1, 2, 3. This is your C. How would you trade this down? This is possible. I am on a 1 minute, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt here. Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at this to be the completed correction, yeah? So this is our final piece for an ABC. Let me get the drawings right. So this is our final piece for an ABC. What you then expect is, this is your first impulse, this is your complete correction, and now this could be the start of the move down. Obviously, with how high it's come up, it does raise a bit more risk in calling it like this, but there's nothing to say that this couldn't also be the start of the move down. So look for sells on pound New Zealand. Yeah, start looking for sells on pound New Zealand. If I was to drop a horizontal, we could say that this is the broken piece. This is your first impulse down. This is potentially your correction. If you get a sell set up here, take it and see how far this goes. Pound Oz. Okay. Impulse. This is probably the B wave. Will come down like this before here. So we're in the middle of the correction here. This could potentially be our B wave. Neutral corner. This is a mess. I mean, what if this is doing this? It continues to crawl up, and Aussie and New Zealand are just doing different things, and maybe the pound, yeah, the pound just sits here, and Aussie and New Zealand go at different rates. You could see this continue to climb, break this top, move to a 4 hour. You get a break at the top, this would just be a B wave, and then you'd have to wait for that downside. So long/neutral corner, if you want to trade this up, can, but where are you going to put your stop losses and things like that? This is very choppy. Let me get rid of this. This is very choppy because like, this could drop, move back up, correct straight away. Do something like that. Pick something else, in my opinion. Pound CAD, I'd look to start saying sells. So this is your impulse, 1, 2, 3. This is another impulse. You're correcting here. This is a potentially complete pattern internally. So this is your A, this is your B, this is your C on a lower time frame. What does this look like? We'll go 4 hours first. You could raise the case. So we get one more up. So this crawls to break the top. I wouldn't say it's out of order for it to do, because you can see this, how big it came down, and this corrective size here, this came down. So this could go 1, 2, 3, and then come back down to break the low. Say it wasn't doing the flat. What other options do you have? Okay, that's also a reasonable option. How would you look at the B wave? I look at the B wave like this. Here and here. So what you then have to see to be able to confidently sell this, let's put a 1 hour. Tricky. We can see one more up. I definitely see one more up. Where's the high? Is this doing? Short term, I'd say longs. You have to note that there is a possibility that this is just finishing off a larger piece here. So if you're doing longs, you can either watch to trail your break-even point or your stop losses. When you break that top, this will come up. It's either going to break this low or it will reverse before it touches this low. If it does reverse, be patient. Wait for a setup that's going to confirm that this is now going down, and then you could look to sell this down to the downside. Pound Swiss. I think I posted. This is nice. So I was looking for sell setups here. I was waiting for a consolidation that's happened. Let's wait for our setups to the downside. We can see a daily move. So essentially what I was posting was wait for a correction to actually happen. And that correction played out very nicely in this form a little bit later on. So you can see here, this was hard to predict, but this just came to a perfect flat. So you got a flat pattern here. This would have been your sell setup. This is a completion of the flat. And then because you were dealing with a 4 hour time frame, so a 4 hour flat potential, what the resulting is that you get, this is your W, this is a 1, 2, 3 for your X, and then you get the resulting move away, which means that you capture in here and essentially you just sit on it. So you would have gone from $1.28 and your first target would have been the break of this low, so $1.16. If you put the correct stop loss and entry, that would have been an awesome fucking return on investment. What could we be looking at now though? Again, as always, because we have break on the lows, there's the option of a reversal or a larger flat coming into play. Let's double check where the all-time lows are. So we've now broken it. The question is this the reversal or are we just consolidating? So pound Swiss would fall in the neutral corner. I'd like to see what type of corrective pattern plays out next. Either we get this to the upside or this is our A wave, B, and then more downside. So neutral corner for pound Swiss on a higher time frame. Pound yen. Posted this one as well. So neutral corner right now. I'd like to see, so this is the flat pattern that we're looking at. There's one more option. If this was to reverse, we could look at a larger piece playing out. So this to come up, I'll get rid of his. So this to come up to be a different C wave and makes a much larger pattern before going down. I don't think that's necessarily the case because the A wave in itself has quite a few pieces. So boom, boom, 1, 2, 3, and going up. So for pound yen, same thing. Let's wait to see what type of correction plays out here. Either you're going to get something like this for more downside, or you'll get a deeper correction or a more upsize favored correction before we go up like this. Okay, Aussie New Zealand. Corrections, moving down. Looks like we're in a impulse to the downside. I go here, I go here. Say wait. This comes lower, sits up like this. You get more downside movement with this just being a pullback. So this would be in the sell category. Be patient. Wait for this to come back up. So you get a clear setup around here, and then you could sell this down. Similar Aussie yen. I don't think that the downside. Actually, I'm not sure. Let's go. Yeah, more downside to come. I think this is the correction, and this is part of the impulse. So what you could see is a correction being played out here. Maybe this is even just the start. You could get a move up, but it'd be long, it's short-lived, and wait for this more downside. No divergence here in this move. More sells. Just wait for another break of this top. So I'd say put a horizontal, maybe put an alarm. Wait for it to break the top before you go. Aussie CAD. More downside. Absolutely. Let's go to the 1 hour. What's kind of played out here? That's just the spike up. Gives you this. That's all right. Let's go trend line like this. That's valid. And wait for your sell setups. You could definitely see more downside for Aussie CAD. New Zealand CAD. We're in some sideways at the moment. Obviously, on a high time frame, we're in a downtrend. It's pretty evident. I'd like to see if we wanted to go long on this. This is a bit tricky because you'd be calling a contracting flat like this, which is like unadvised unless you get a clear setup like this. And then it's like, okay, I'm confident in calling this a contracting flat because of the signs I've seen here. However, at the moment, that hasn't played out. So we'll keep the horizontal. The automatic expectation is to come back down to this low and maybe get something similar to that. CAD yen. Okay, we were looking for longs. Somebody was looking for longs in the group. This could maybe be your long setup. There was a drop horizontal. Say we're going with this as an ABC. This comes back down lower. You could get this. That looks reasonable to say right now. What are the other options? This could also play out to be a sell actually. What happens if we're doing this? I actually like this to be a sell more than anything at the moment. Yeah, sell setups on CAD yen. No divergence. No divergence. This is a, yes, sketchy A, but it's still an A, B, C. Can I make a B wave internal structure here? One, two. You could even cause this. Yeah, I'd say more sell setups on CAD yen. If this corrects, like this, take your sell setups and hold. You break this low. Okay, that'll be CAD yen. Swiss yen. Swiss is always so fucking spiky here. Apologies in the language. We consolidate. Be careful with your stop losses. More down. That's pretty self-explanatory as to what you're seeing. Impulse. Impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. Okay, so the Dow Jones. Is it moving on to the indices now? So Dow Jones, we will be in consolidation. This will more than likely be a B wave, come up to here before we get another impulse to the downside. Neutral corner. Don't trade it. Let it play out. Let it give you a signal on the hourly or 4 hourly before jumping in. Same thing with the S&P 500. We will consolidate. We've broken the trend line. This is your impulse. Why are they going to come back down like this, or this will go up one more, come back down before going back up, and then we'll get more downside. More downsides to come, but these things need to correct. NASDAQ. Okay. Immense amounts of divergence between the two peaks. We've had a very large move to the downside. This is somewhat of a strong impulse to the upside. Not too fussed by it. Let's wait for this. Correct. More downside. Leave it alone. Don't trade it. A6. Tricky one. We have no divergence. No divergence. Okay. Unlike the other ones though, we do have a case for running flat. So let's go weekly time frame. This is a weekly move up, no divergence. We have a 1, 2, 3 back to the valid trend line here before this continues to go up. That's one possibility. What if this is actually is WXY, and this is making a very large pattern here? Possible, I'm guessing. Right now, the information leads me to draw this conclusion. Let's wait to see for more upside. We don't have any divergence coming up. Although I noted that I don't like this 4-hourly divergence, or the 4-hourly lack of divergence, because you can see that this looks like a trend continuation. So you can raise the case for this being a WXY. But this impulse to the upside brings a few questions. So ASX, we're either in the A wave, this will come down for a B, then go back up, or this just completed a 1, 2, 3, and this is your first move up. We can get some corrections maybe the next week, something like this, before up. XJO. So this is the ASX against the S&P against the ASX 200. Similar situation. You could look at this. Let's go 15 minutes. You could also just go like this. Stay away from these ones. They look like they're going to be correcting. I have no idea what the correction is going to play out. Nobody really does. This could move up like this, then come back down. Or this could complete here and then just drop. More downside to come, but it's going to correct, and it will correct. The All Ords. We're in our C wave. So come, and also go back up. Something like this. US oil. We've been tracking this one. We're looking for an upside move. We have our impulse. We have our 1, 2, 3 down to the downside. On a 1 hourly. There's two options at the moment. Was this just a spike? I mean, this could have just been a spike, or this is just making a correction to come back low. Or could this be complete? With this being the first move to the upside. Next week will be very telling. If we start to consolidate like this, longs, 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 longs. If we break the low, more than likely will be the final piece to the downside. This will be your flat. Another drop, correct? One more down, and then we'll get our weekly, monthly start to the upside. Gold against the Aussie. Self-explanatory. Impulse, correction, impulse. I'd like to see more smaller time frame corrections just to make this up move more sustainable. But over the long run, we'll see more upside on gold against the Aussie dollar. Silver against the Aussie dollar is in a bit of an interesting spot. The reasons for that is this is your correction. Okay. I'm looking at this as an A, B, C. We haven't broken this trend line, so we could definitely see more downside to come and then to the upside. However, we could also look to see if this is going to contract here and finish off the potential pattern like this. We'd move to a lower time frame to confirm that. At the moment, we don't necessarily have anything confirmed. If this was to be the start of the upside, back low, then we go long. Cool. This is gold against the US. If this is our pullback, this is the start of our upside. This will begin to impulse and correct and continue its way up. Similar to that. What you get is more correcting, more upside. falls into the long category at the moment. This is potentially just completed another long. Some more upside. So DAX, similar to the other indices, don't trade it. Find something else to trade. You're going to be trading into a correction. Corrections are hard. You will lose more than you win. Like, you want your win ratio to be high. If you wanted to do it on an hourly or a 15-minute, so we'll go to daily first. Impulse, we're going into correction. With the hourly, we could see this. So this will come here and then continue going up. That's definitely an hourly or a 15-minute trade. But what happens if it's just, hey, we've completed our A wave, now we're going down for our B, or we're doing something else like this. And this is just another setup for more downside. That's why trading on these lower time frames can be tricky, because the options that are available, because of the fractal nature of the markets, there's always going to be multiple options on different time frames. So you want to get in at the point that has the least options on all the other time frames. So this one, it looks like we're either correcting, or this will be a continuation to the impulse, or the impulse to the downside. How we'll know that is with live data information or live market information. If this corrects like this, I'm more probable for downside. If it decides to reverse and you're in, then you're lucky for a little move to the upside. It'll stop here, it'll go up, you get out over here. So, it depends on your trading style, but yeah, up and down, both probable. It's 50-50. Okay, that was a lot. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you next week. If there's anything that you'd like me to touch on next week, or maybe change through the styles, possibly a bit more prepared with having the ideas, or maybe like a quicker time frame format. So if I could do all of these without going into depth in maybe like 15-20 minutes, I could look to see, I could try that. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed Matrix's weekly outlook, and hope that gives you some direction and confidence as to where you should be trading, or how you should be trading in the following week. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one.